Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept my respectful obeisances. All glories to His confounder Charles, His divine Bishop Prabhupada, all glories to Sri Guru and Guranga. Welcome, His Grace SRIVAS VANACARI for today's Small Bhagavatam class for today. Dear devotees, today is the beginning of another new chapter on the third canto. We're starting with chapter 5 of the third canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, and we're fortunate we have our senior God brother, His Grace SRIVAS VANACARI, who is going to be speaking with us today. Thank you very much, Prabhu, for accepting our invitation.
So, Thank Prabhu, you if you're for ready, the opportunity to serve the devotees.
Thank you. So I'll put the verse on the screen and then we can start. So over to you, Prabhu.
Narayana namaskritya narachaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayamudirayat nashtapraya swabhadresu nityam bhagavatam sevaya bhagavati uttamasloke bhakti bhavati naistiki Om namo bhagavate vasudevaya Om namo bhagavate vasudevaya Om namo bhagavate vasudevaya. So we are reading from the third canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Text 1. Canto 5 is entitled Vidura's Talks with Maitreya. That's on the screen. It says, Vishuka Ovacha Dwari Dyunatya Rishaba Kurunam Maitriyam Ashinam Agada Bodham Shato Pasritya Chuta Bhavasidaha Prapracha Sosilya Gunabitritaha Shri Shuka Ovacha Dwaridyo Nadya Rishaba Kurunam Maitreyam Ashinam Agada Bodham Shato Pasritya Chuta Bhavasidaha Papracha Susilya Gunabitritaha Sri Shuka Uvacha Dwari Dyunadya Rishaba Kurunam Maitreyam Ashinam Agada Bodham Shato Pasritya Chuta Bhavasidaha Paprapcha Susilya Gunabitritaha. Word for word translation. Sri Shuka Ovacha. Shukadeva Goswami said, Dwari are the source of Dew Nadia, the celestial river Ganges, Rishabha, the breast of the Kurus, Kuranam of the Kurus, Maitreyam, unto Maitreya, Ashinam, sitting, Agada Bodham, of unfathomed knowledge, Shataha, Vidura, Upashritya, having approached nearer, Achyuta, the infallible Lord, Bhava, character, Siddha, perfect, Papracha, inquired, Susilya, gentleness, Guna, Abitripta, satisfied and transcendental qualities. Translation. Shukadeva Goswami said, Vidura, the best amongst the Kuru dynasty, who was perfect in devotional service to the Lord, thus reached the source of the celestial Ganges River, Haridwar, where Maitreya, the great fathomless lineage sage of the world, was seated. Vidura was perfect in gentleness and satisfied in transcendence, inquired from him. Srila Prabhupada's purport. Vidura was already perfect due to his unalloyed devotion to the infallible Lord. The Lord and the living entities are qualitatively the same by nature, but the Lord is quantitatively much greater than any individual living entity. He is ever infallible, whereas the living entities are prone to fall under the illusory energy. Vidura had already surpassed the fallible nature of the living entity in conditional life due to his being Achyuta Bhava, or legitimately absorbed in the devotional service of the Lord. This stage of life is called Achyuta Bhava Siddha, or perfection by dint of devotional service. Anyone, therefore, who is absorbed in the devotional service of the Lord is a liberated soul and has all admirable qualities. The learned sage Maitreya was sitting in a solitary place on the bank of the Ganges at Haridwar, and Vidura, who was a perfect devotee of the Lord and possessed all good transcendental qualities, approached him for inquiry. Om Jnana Timirasya Jnanan Janasalakaya Chakshuram Militam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yukta Padakamalam Sri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Ragunastam Vitam Tam Sanjivam Sadvetam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakam Vitamscha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Tirtha Swami Iti Namine. Namaste Krishna Padaya Prabhupada Ashri Tatmane Shri Gaura Karuna Shakti Bhakti Tirtha Iti Namine. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharini Nirvise Sashunyavadi Pasachade Satarini Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripasindubhyaiva cha Patitanam Pavanibhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha. Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namini Gauratvize Namaha. Nityanando Vatutendo Vasuda Pranavalabhar Janaviri Jivita Patiri Krishna Prema Prabhu Padmavati Sutta Srimam Sachirananda Purvajaha Bhavam Mata Jagat Rakta Rakta Gora Kelevaraha Advaitam Harina Dvaitaracharyam Bhakti Shamshanat Bhaktavataram Itam Sham Advaita Acharya Shraye Panchatattamakam Krishnam Bhakta Rupa Sarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhakti Shaktikyam Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nanda Gopa Kumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha Nama Pankajanabaya Nama Pankajamalini Nama Pankajanetraya Namaste Pankajagraye Namo Brahmanya Devaya Go Brahmana Hitaya Cha Jagarhitaya Krishnaya Govindaya Namo Namaha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopita Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Jayatam Sumangho Mama Madirgatima Sarvaswa Radha Mandana Mohano Divya Vrindaranya Kalpatunoda Srimaranadgara Simhastanastau Srila Govinda Deva Pristyali Visivya Manosmarami Sri Mamra Sarasarambi Vamsivata Tatastita Karsan Venuswanai Gopi Gopinata Sriyestunaha Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Brindavanishwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Devi Krishnamai Prokta Radhika Paradevata Sarvalakshmi Mai Sarvam Kanti Samohini Paraha Jaya Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Nirvana Garadha Siva Sati Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Translation again. Shukadeva Goswami said, Vidura, the best amongst the Kuru dynasty, who was perfect in devotional service to the Lord, and thus reached the source of the celestial Ganges River, Haridwar, where Maitreya, the great fathomless learned sage of the world, was seated. Vidura, who was perfect in gentleness and satisfied in transcendence, inquired from him. Karoti Vachalam Pangum Lagayete Grim Yarkari Patamahan Vande Sri Guru Dina Taranam Paramanam Madhavam Sri Chaitanya Ishwaram Akanda Mandalakaram Vyaptaina Characharam Tatpadam Dashitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. So everyone is welcome to today's class. And before we speak, we seek the blessings of all the assembled Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis so that we can say something which will be beneficial for our own spiritual progress and probably for the benefit of the audience. Durgame patime indasya skalat pada gatir mohor. Swakripa yasti danena santa santu avalambalam. This is the prayer of Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, the author of the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, in his very old age, took up the project of compiling the pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And he felt himself unqualified to utter Chaitanya Charitamrita. But there was a need. The devotees have requested him to compile these pastimes for the benefit of the Vaishnava world. So even though he considered himself very unqualified by many factors, due to his age, due to circumstances, and many other factors, he prayed to the devotees. Shanta Shantu, Avalambalam. Santa means the devotees. We need the support of the devotees. We need the blessings of the devotees in order to make progress in our spiritual life. Whatever progress we have made so far is all by the mercy of the devotees. Can we imagine if His Divine Grace Lacy Bhakti Vedanta Swami Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada had not gone west to establish this movement? Where shall we be by now? Definitely, this platform would not be there, and definitely we would not be on this platform at this time. But because the pure devotee of Krishna, he took the trouble to leave his comfort zone in a very advanced age. And then he went west into a strange environment, a country he did not really know anybody. And for a whole 1 year, Srila Prabhupada struggled to establish this movement. By then, some of us were not even born. Some of us were just little children. Some were just teenagers. But Srila Prabhupada was thinking about all of us, how he is going to save the whole world. Those who were young, those who were kids, those who were still in the womb, and those who were yet to be born. Srila Prabhupada was thinking about all of us. And he established the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. And even though it was very difficult for him, no money, no followers, no house, no temple, nothing. He only had faith in his spiritual master and faith in Krishna. Those were his backbones. Those were his trump cards. Faith in Guru and faith in Krishna. Faith in the holy name and faith in the Srimad Bhagavatam. These were the things the Prabhupada depended upon from the very beginning of the establishment of this wonderful movement that many of us have come to meet. We've come to meet the luxury of Krishna consciousness. No struggle. Prabhupada struggled for years to get this movement established. Just for you and me, for the whole world. So, without the mercy of His Divine Grace, without the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, we would not be here. Without the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, I would not be speaking to you. Without the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, we would not even have known about Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, Chaitanya Charitamrita, the Vedic literatures, we wouldn't have known about them. So actually, I always say that Srila Prabhupada has made the impossible possible. Whatever we are getting today, whatever we're experiencing, our participation in Krishna consciousness is all by the mercy of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada. He has made the impossible possible. So, we always need the mercy of the devotees to make any progress in Krishna consciousness. And we should be conscious of it, that whatever we have achieved and whatever we hope to achieve is all depending on the mercy of the devotees. So, in this verse, Shukadeva Goswami is saying that Vidura, the best amongst the Kuru dynasty, who was perfect in devotional service to the Lord, thus reached the source of the celestial Ganges River, Haridwar, where Maitreya, the great fathomless learned sage of the well, was seated. Vidura, who was perfect in gentleness and satisfied in transcendence, inquired from him. Again, this is in line with the fact that we always need the mercy of the devotees. So Maitreya is seated in Haridwar. Vidura is approaching him. Why? Because Vidura had met Uddhava. He met Uddhava on the banks of the Yamuna in Vrindavan, and Uddhava had told him that Krishna, at the point of departure from this world, remembered him, remembered Vidura, and left a message for Vidura. So, as we read from the purport, Vidura was already perfect due to his unalloyed devotion to the infallible Lord. That is the very special position of Vidura. Vidura is so special that when the Lord was leaving this material world, he remembered him. And not just only remembering him, he also left a message for him. So we must understand how wonderful, how exalted, how great this devotee called Vidura is. In the Hari Bhakti Vilas, Sanatana Goswami says, Brahmananam sahasrebhya satrajayi vishashate satrajayi sahasrebhya sarvadvedanta paragaha sarvavedanta vitkotya vishnu bhakto vishashyate vaishnavam sahasrebhya ekantyako vishishyate. The meaning of this verse is, out of many thousands of brahmanas, one who performs sacrifice for the satisfaction of Lord Vishnu is the best. Out of thousands of such Yagyaka Brahmanas, Yagyaki Brahmanas means Brahmanas who are engaged in the performance of sacrifice. One who knows the meaning of Vedanta is the best. Vedanta means the end of knowledge. And the end of knowledge is Krishna. Vedanta Krit. So one who knows Vedanta is the best. But out of millions of such Vedantists, a devotee of Vishnu is the best. And out of thousands and thousands of Vishnu Bhaktas, one who is an unalloyed devotee of the Lord is the best. So we can see the position of Vidura. Vidura was an unalloyed devotee of the Lord. And he was so dear to Krishna that when Krishna was leaving the planet, he remembered him. We are trying to remember the Supreme Personality of Godhead when we want to leave this world. We are trying to remember Krishna in difficult circumstances. We are trying to remember Krishna every day in our japa. We are trying to remember Krishna in our hearing. We want to remember Krishna in our services. But here, Krishna is remembering his devotee. So we can understand how dear the devotee is to Krishna. That Krishna remembers Vidura at the time of his departure from this planet. So he was so exalted that Krishna has released a message for him. So this is the position of Vidura. We cannot imagine what kind of devotee he is. But just from this glimpse, we can understand that he is so dear to Krishna. When Vidura met Uddhava in Vrindavan and Uddhava paid obeisances to Vidura because Vidura is older than Uddhava by age. But Vidura embraced Uddhava because Vidura saw Uddhava as a great personality, a spiritually enlivened person, because he is an associate of Krishna. Uddhava is a very dear devotee of Krishna. So Uddhava was thinking, here is Vidura, he is as old as my father. So let me pay obeisances to him. But Vidura was not thinking like that. Vidura was thinking, this is a very exalted devotee of Krishna. He's an associate of Krishna. He is Krishna Parishada, very dear to Krishna. Let me take association of him. He embraced Uddhava. It was Uddhava who told Vidura that Krishna had left a message for him. And Uddhava referred him to Maitreya. Actually, Vidura wanted the message to be delivered to him by Uddhava in Vrindavan. But Uddhava declined. Uddhava said, I'm not fit to be your spiritual master. I'm younger than you. So why don't you go to Haridwar, where there's an elderly saint who was also present when Krishna was leaving the planet. And he also received the instructions, the message of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. You better go to Haridwar. And from Vrindavan to Haridwar is not too far. You can easily go there and receive the message. So in this way, Vidura honored Uddhava, and Uddhava honored Vidura. Actually, the Acharyas say that because they are both very dear to Krishna, they are both very exalted devotees, they could relish each other's association. In fact, when Uddhava got to know that Krishna was leaving, he was not very comfortable. He approached Krishna and said, "My dear Krishna, I want to go with you. I don't want to be left behind. I cannot live in this world without you." But Krishna said, "No, you have to stay back. You have to carry some message. You have to go to Bandarika Ashrama. You have to associate with those devotees. You have to give them some messages. So you cannot go with me. But you will come later. Don't worry." So it is said that Krishna gave Uddhava the message. Of course, at that time, Maitreya had also come. Maitreya was fortunate to be present when Krishna was about to leave. So Maitreya had also come to be present. And he also had the same message that Krishna was delivering to Uddhava for Vidura. So from this interaction, we can see that Vidura and Uddhava, they are practically on the same level of unalloyed devotional service. And we cannot talk about Vidura's exalted position without mentioning the fact that he was able to deliver his brother, Dhritarashtra. Dhritarashtra, we all know, was very blind from birth. And he had a stone heart. He was very wicked. The way he dealt with the young Pandavas, the way he maltreated the young Pandavas who were put to his care. If not for Vidura, who was always leaking some of the information to the Pandavas were to be killed in the house of lac. They had planned to get them burned to ashes. But Vidura leaked the information to the Pandavas. So Dhritarashtra is born blind physically and spiritually. And he was also very crooked and very wicked, stone-hearted Dhritarashtra. That your brother's children, Pandu's children, you treated them like slaves. You treated them like they don't matter. That was very cruel of him. Nevertheless, after Vidura returned from his pilgrimage, he ensured that this is blind senior brother, this is stone-hearted, wicked senior brother, was delivered from the clutches of Maya. So that also shows the greatness of Vidura. Because he was such an exalted personality, such a great personality, he was able to melt the heart, the stone-like heart of the Tarastra. So somebody may challenge that how was it possible for Vidura to liberate the Tarastra? And not only that, Vidura also became an acharya for Yudhishthira Maharaj. When Vidura returned from his pilgrimage, Yudhishthira Maharaj received him so nicely, seated him on a Vyasasan, worshipped him, and then with the whole family, they came before Vidura and they began to ask him questions concerning his travel. And Vidura enlightened everyone. So somebody may say, Vidura was born a Sudra. How is it possible for him to have liberated the Tarastra, a great king, and Yudhishthira Maharaj, a great king? So as we all know, that Vidura is no other person than Yamaraj. Vidura is Yamaraj who wanted to preach. He wanted to participate in Krishna's pastimes. So the Srimad Bhagavatam tells us, Abhibrat Ariyama Dandam Yatavat Aga Karishu Yavat Dabara Sudratram Sapat Varsha Satam Yamaha. That Vidura played the part of a Sudra when he was cursed by Maduka Muni. Simply because Vidura, as Yamaraj, was always too busy. In fact, he said that Yamaraj is one of the busiest demigods because a lot of sinful people are going to the hellish planet. Yamaraj's court is always full of sinful living entities. And Yamaraj has to make sure that everyone gets the right body, take the right birth, right country, right karma, right species, everything that each and every one of us has is decided by Yamaraj based on our previous activities. So Yamaraj is said to be the busiest universal administrators, Lokapalas. He is the busiest because he has to deal with so many cases. So Yamaraj was feeling some lacking. He was feeling, I'm so busy with these sinful people all the time. I'm not getting the chance to participate in Krishna's pastimes. I'm not getting the chance to preach Krishna consciousness. I want to get out. And because of this, it was arranged for Maduka Muni to curse Vidura as Yamaraj. And then he appeared as a Sudra Putra, the son of a Sudrani. And so from the beginning, He was practically rejected from the palace. He was not counted as one of the royals. But that was good for him. He didn't actually want to identify with anything royal. He wanted to maintain his status quo as a devotee, perfect devotee. He came to preach. He came to spread Krishna consciousness. He came to glorify the Lord. He did not want to get into politics. So he was happy that he was out of that show. So, even though born from the womb of a Shudra woman, he had the qualities of a great devotee. Yamaraj is one of those Vaishnavas who is representing the Lord in dealing with sinful people. So therefore, there was no doubt that he could act as a chariot for great personalities like Yudhishthira Maharaj and the Dhritarashtra Maharaj. Besides that, we also have to remember that Yamaraj is one of the 12 Mahajans. We know the 12 Mahajans, beginning with Brahma, Narada, Shiva, Kapila, Bhishma, Bali, the Kumaras, Janaka. There are 12 Mahajans, and these are the authorities of religion, authorities of Dharma. So Yamaraj is one of those authorities. So therefore, we cannot expect anything less because he's an authority of religion. He's an authority of Dharma. So therefore, he had the empowerment. He had the knowledge to liberate his senior brother. There was some exchange between Vidura and Dhritarashtra when he returned from his trip, from his pilgrimage. After he had talked to Yudhishthira Maharaj and their family members, he went to the chambers of Dhritarashtra. Dhritarashtra was taken good care of by Yudhishthira Maharaj. Yudhishthira Maharaj saw him as his uncle, and even though he maltreated them, he really wanted to eliminate them. But Yudhishthira Maharaj was such an exalted personality. He treated Dhritarashtra just as he would treat his own father, Pandu. So he was feeling very comfortable under the care of Yudhishthira Maharaj. So after Vidura had finished talking to Yudhishthira Maharaj and the family members, he went to the chambers of Dhritarashtra. And with Dhritarashtra, he was just telling him nothing but the truth. It says in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Tasyapi tavadehoyam kripanasya jijiviso paraiti anichato girno jaraya vishasi eva. It said, despite your unwillingness to die, despite your desire to live on, and despite the honor and the prestige you are enjoying under the care of Yudhishthira Maharaj, your body will dwindle and death will take you. You're already an old man. It means you're already close to the end. So why don't you do something now? why don't you wake up, get out of this comfort, and seek your spiritual liberation? Furthermore, Vidura told Dhritarashtra, he says, my dear Dhritarashtra, the son of the Kurus, do not live under Yudhishthira Maharaj like a dog. The same children you wanted to eliminate, the same children you wanted to kill, now you are shamelessly enjoying under their care. You are shamelessly accepting honor from these very children you wanted to kill. Get out. Go to the Himalayas. Seek your liberation and give up this comfort which you don't deserve. So Vidura, he told Dhritarashtra the truth. And it is said, when Dhritarashtra heard this from his younger brother, he became fully convinced by introspective knowledge, and he broke loose the strong network of attachment, of affection, by a resolute determination. And thus, he immediately left the palace without even informing Yudhishthira Maharaj. In the middle of the night, Dhritarashtra left home. And his faithful wife, Gandhari, followed him from behind. The next day, Yudhishthira Maharaj could not find Dhritarashtra and his wife in their chambers. And Yudhishthira began to cry. But it was too late. They were gone. Because Mahatma Vidura had injected into the heart of Dhritarashtra knowledge and detachment. So knowledge and detachment are very crucial in the life of a devotee. And this can only be obtained from the association of devotees. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has therefore stated that association with the sadhus, association with the pure devotees of the Lord, is the turning point in our spiritual life. It says that even a moment's association with an exalted devotee cannot be valued. Sadhu Sangha, Sarva Shastra Kaya, Lava Mantra Sadhu Sangha, Sarva Siddhi Hoy. And the verdict of all scriptures is that even a moment's association with a pure devotee brings success. An example is here that because Vidura gave his association to stone-hearted Dhritarashtra, to crooked Dhritarashtra, to wicked Dhritarashtra, his spiritual vision opened. He gave up his attachment. And that very night, he left home for the Himalayas. And there, he attained perfection. He ignited the yogic fire, Agneya, the mystical fire which is within the body, it can be ignited by mystical development, by advanced yoga, as we find in the case of Sati, the wife of Lord Shiva, when the father Daksha offended him and the husband, he ignited her body to fire. So similarly, the Tarastra, he ignited that Agneya, that mystical fire that came from within and consumed his body. And Gandhari, the faithful wife, also joined that fire. So that is the greatness of Vidura. It is often said that you can understand the greatness of a person by how many people he is able to make into devotee.
Direction, Prabhu, please can you re-unmute yourself, please? SRIVAS. Please can you unmute? Yeah. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada, he says, our only business as devotees is to help others become devotees. And to the degree that a devotee is empowered, to that degree, he can make others to become devotees. So the quality of our devotional service will attract others, and they can also become devotees. Just like Srila Prabhupada did. Of course, Srila Prabhupada, we all know that he is a Satyavesha, he is an empowered personality. There was no bhakta, no devotee in New York, no devotee around the world, nothing. But from that one person, Srila Prabhupada, now we have millions of devotees across the world. There was no temple, but from that single personality, we now have over 1,000 temples across the world. There was not a single book. Now we have books all over the whole world. Bhagavad Gita everywhere, Srimad Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, everywhere around the world. That is the greatness of Srila Prabhupada. So to the degree that we have imbibed this Krishna consciousness, to the degree that we are practicing Krishna consciousness, to that degree, we can also help others. We can also influence others to become devotees. And an example is here, that Vidura was able to convert wicked Dhritarashtra into a great devotee, and he accepted to give up the comfort of palace life and journeyed to the Himalayas, where he left his body and went back home, back to Godhead. So it is interesting that Vidura is approaching Maitreya. Maitreya is seated in Haridwar, and Vidura has met with Uddhava in Vrindavan, and Uddhava had informed him about the message that Lord Krishna had left with Maitreya, and so immediately Vidura headed out to Haridwar so that he can receive that message. So Srila Prabhupada mentions in the purport that the living entity and the Supreme Lord are qualitatively the same. The Lord and the living entities are all qualitatively the same by nature, but the Lord is quantitatively much greater than any individual entity. So it is a fact that even though the living entity is qualitatively one with Krishna, but Krishna is quantitatively superior to the living entity. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita is mentioned, Maya Dishe, Maya Vasha, Ishware Jiva Beda. That even though the Lord and the living entity are one, the Lord remains the master of the potencies, while the living entity remains the servant of these potencies. The living entity belongs to the Tatastha Shakti, the marginal potency. So therefore, sometimes the living entity associates with the internal potency or chit potency, and sometimes the living entity associates with the Bahiranga Shakti or the external potency. So the living entity is influenced either by the internal potency or by the external potency. So that means the living entity is under the influence of the potencies of the Lord. And so that brings out the difference. The potencies are under the control of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The living entity cannot claim such authority. The living entity is under the influence of the potencies. So sometimes he is in the spiritual potency, spiritual world, and sometimes he's in the material world. So Krishna is not in that position. Krishna is superior. Krishnaya Purna Purushaya Parat Karana Karanaya. As Krishna is Purna. Krishna Purna Purushaya. Krishna is Purna, he is complete. He does not depend on any other personality. His Purushaya, his original personality. All other personalities come from him. Parat Karana Karanaya. He is the cause, is the supreme cause of all causes. Nothing is beyond the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So that is the position of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So even though the living entity by nature is part and parcel of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the living entity is described in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Ekasyaiva mamam sasyaha jivasyaiva mahamate bandurusya vidyaya naidir vidyaya cha tate taraha. The living entity called Jiva is part and parcel of me. Krishna is speaking to Uddhava. Is part and parcel of me. But due to ignorance, he has been suffering in the material bondage since time immemorial. But if he gains spiritual knowledge, he can be liberated. So this is the position of the living entity. Sometimes we are conditioned, and sometimes we are liberated. In the case of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he is eternally liberated. There is no question of sometimes being liberated and sometimes being conditioned. The Lord is never conditioned. But for the living entities, sometimes we are conditioned and sometimes we are liberated. So that makes the big difference between us and the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Srila Prabhupada also writes that anyone, therefore, who is absorbed in devotional service of the Lord is a liberated soul and has all admirable qualities. So the Lord is eternally liberated. So therefore, if we want to be liberated, we must serve the Lord. We must associate with the Lord. Harihi nirguna shakshat Purusha Prakrite Paraha. The Lord is always transcendentally situated. Harihi Nirguna Shakshar. It means Krishna is not affected by the gunas. Nirguna. Nirguna means it's not affected by the gunas. The Lord is always in a transcendental position. And that is why he is Purusha Para. He is a personality above the modes of material nature. He is not touched by Maya. And anyone who worships the Lord, Tambajam Nirguna Bhavet, anyone who worships Krishna, anyone who associates with Krishna, anyone who performs service to Krishna, also becomes Nirguna. So because the Lord is eternally perfect, eternally liberated, when we serve him, when we associate with him, when we hear his glories, when we think of him, we also become liberated. So, to engage in devotional service is actually the beginning of our liberation, our freedom. Indriyai indriyateshu, gunai api guneshu cha. Grihamaneshu aham kuryam, na vidwan yastu avikriyaha. An enlightened person who is free from the contamination of the material world does not think of himself as the body. He thinks of himself as part and parcel of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He thinks of himself as a servant of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One who is in knowledge of the absolute truth. One who understands his relationship with the Supreme Absolute Truth. One who understands the importance of devotional service. We talk about Sambandha Gyan, Abhideya Gyan, and Prayojana Gyan. Abhideya, Sambandha means knowledge. Abhideya means the process of devotional service. And Prayojan means the perfection, love of Godhead. So anyone who is in knowledge of these three things and acts accordingly will definitely become liberated. So the process of bhakti is actually meant to deliver everyone. It's meant to free us from this material world. So the learned sage Maitreya was sitting in a solitary place on the bank of the Ganges at Haridwar, and Vidura, a perfected devotee of the Lord, with all transcendental qualities, approach him for inquiry. So it is said that when two great personalities meet, they discuss great things. And there are many examples. Sanjaya, at the last part of Bhagavad Gita, I think 1874, Sanjaya is saying, Iti aham vasudevasya partasya cha mahatmanaha samvandam imam ashursam adbhutam roma hashanam. Thus I've heard the conversation of the two great souls, Krishna and Arjuna. And so wonderful is that message that my hairs are standing on end. Two great personalities. When two great personalities meet, the conversation is transcendental. The conversation increases Krishna consciousness. The conversation takes the living entity to a different dimension. Similarly, when the Kumaras met with Prithu Maharaj, it is also described in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Sangama kalo sadunam ubayesham chat samantaha. When there is a meeting between devotees, their discussions, their questions, their answers become conclusive, and both the speaker and the audience, they all benefit. So, Vidura is meeting with Maitreya, and they are going to engage in a dialogue, a spiritual dialogue. And as we shall see, that most of the Srimad Bhagavatam is that discussion between Vidura and Maitreya. So that is the power of, again, association. So it is said that when two great souls meet, they invigorate the disciplic succession, they expand the disciplic succession, and they activate the disciplic succession. Just like Srila Prabhupada meeting Srila Bhaktisiddhanta in 1922. When Srila Prabhupada met Srila Bhaktisiddhanta in 1922, it was just like one of those meetings. It was just like an ordinary meeting. But that meeting was a very, very important moment in the history of the world. And Srila Prabhupada writes, we are not ashamed to admit that this fact was experienced in my own life. When I met Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada, in our first meeting, he tasked me of writing books in the English language. He tasked me of preaching the English language. He tasked me to spread Mahaprabhu's message in the English language. At that time, it sounded like impossible. But by the grace of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, all have come to pass. So, by associating with the saintly people, by hearing from the saintly people, we get the energy, we get the empowerment to perform devotional service. So, Vidura is meeting with Maitreya. And Maitreya, who is deep in knowledge, will answer all his questions, will impart to him. He's already a great devotee. He's already an exalted person. And now he's meeting with Maitreya. Vidura is not thinking, I'm a great devotee, therefore I don't need any association. Actually, it is said that everybody needs association. The neophyte devotee needs association. The Madhyama devotee needs association. Even the Uttama devotee, he needs association. So Vidura is an exalted personality, but he's approaching Maitreya so that he can drink deep in the knowledge of Krishna consciousness. So we should never think we've known enough. We should never think we have had enough. Actually, we have not yet started the journey. The more we study Srimad Bhagavatam, the more we study Chaitanya Charitamrita, the more we study the Sandarbhas, Jiva Goswami Sandarbhas, the more we study Brihad Bhagavatamritam, the more we will see that we have not yet started the journey. And that is why it is good for us to always hear and associate with other devotees. So, by following the example of Vidura, by seeing the example of Vidura and following that example, we can make further progress in our Krishna consciousness. I will end here. If there are any comments or questions, it's getting late for me also in India. It's getting to 10 o'clock. So if there are any comments or questions, they're welcome.
Thank you very much, His Grace and SRIVAS VANACARI, for this lengthy, elaborate class. You spoke extensively on the exalted position of unalloyed devotion. You spoke about Gyan at different levels, from Sambandha to Abhidheya to Prayojan. You spoke about Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's unequal mercy and how he gave this process. Srila Prabhupada's unequal mercy for giving us this opportunity to be in the process of devotional service, to have an opportunity to speak, to hear Srimad Bhagavatam. You spoke very nicely about the importance of being focused and not assuming we have arrived in devotional service. You ended by nicely summarizing that our devotional service practice is a continuous process. Thank you very much for the elaborate class. So beautiful. I have a question, but before that, dear devotees, if anyone has a question or comment, please kindly indicate by raising your hand using the emoji, or physical hand, and we'll call you to ask your question. I have a question.
Okay, Prabhu, go ahead.
You started by speaking about the unalloyed position of unalloyed devotional service and the position of whoever. And my question is, oftentimes we hear the word unalloyed devotion. And my mind starts wondering, what is this unalloyed devotion? How do we identify it when we see it? What are the symptoms of this unalloyed devotion? Is this something achievable in this same one lifetime? Or is this something that we need to wait for?
Thank you. Beautiful question. Maybe there won't be any other question. Yeah, unalloyed devotion, even from the word unalloyed. An alloy means a combination of a number of metals in chemistry. When you combine one or two metals, they are called an alloy. So when we say unalloyed, it means there is no mixture. No mixture of any other form except devotion to Krishna. So, see, generally the living entity, we have many desires. And so even when we render devotional service, we do so with still some desires. And so once we are rendering devotional service with some desires, either to enjoy the result or to gain something out of it, or to develop some mystic power, or to gain some prominence, or we want to be recognized, we want to be famous. All these are different desires of a living entity. And so long as we still harbor these things in our heart, our devotion cannot be described as unalloyed. They are alloyed. I mean, they're mixed. So to perform unalloyed devotional service means that when we are performing our services, we should not expect anything from these services. We don't want any name. We don't want any fame. We don't want any recognition. We don't want anything mystical. We don't want anything for ourselves. We are just doing it because we want to satisfy Krishna. Somebody asked me a question. Now, what about if I'm chanting the holy name with a desire to enjoy the bliss of the holy name? Is that material desire? I said, well, the holy name books, the instructions on the holy name says that before you start to chant your holy names in the morning, you should make a sankalpa. You should take a vow that I am chanting this holy name purposely for Krishna's satisfaction. And you keep that at the back of your mind. And so anytime the mind goes off, you bring it back. And actually that is what will endear us to Krishna. When we chant the holy names without any expectation, we are just chanting because we want to please Krishna. When we render service without any expectation, we are just doing it to please Krishna. Such service is described as unalloyed. And it is possible. It is possible in this life. It's just a matter of programming ourselves that I want to do this, and what is the reason for doing it? I want to please Krishna. So we have to program the mind. We have to program our activities, all centered on pleasing Krishna. If we can do that, then we can easily approach this unalloyed devotion. So it is possible that actually Srila Prabhupada, he gave us unalloyed devotional service. He himself demonstrated unalloyed devotional service. He gave us the opportunity to perform unalloyed devotional service. And if we follow his example, we follow his instruction, we can arrive there. It's possible. A number of devotees, they have achieved that unalloyed devotional service. It is not something impossible. It's just a matter of having the desire that this is what I want. I don't want any mischief. I don't want anything else. I just want to please Krishna. And that is the path to unalloyed devotional service. And anybody, a child can do it, a man can do it, a woman can do it, anybody can do it. It's just a matter of making a sankalpa that this is what I want, this is what I want to do, and just go for it. It is possible. It is not easy, definitely, because of our background, where we are coming from. It's not easy because of our previous karmas. It's not easy because of the body we have. Sometimes it's not easy because of the circumstances, the situation we find ourselves. But the goal, Prabhupada says, we should set that as our goal and move towards it, work towards it. Every devotee should be thinking, when will that day come when I can render service without any material motivation? When will that day come when I can chant the holy name without any material motivation? That is what we should fix in front of us, and we'll work towards it. And by the mercy of Guru, by the mercy of Vaishnavas, by the mercy of Krishna, it is possible. Sadhu Sangha, Krishna Kripa, Bhaktira Swabhava. In the association of devotees, Sadhu Sangha, everything is possible. By the mercy of Krishna, Krishna Kripa, whatever we are desiring will be possible. And by the very nature of bhakti, Bhaktira Swabhava, bhakti, everything is possible. So if we set our priorities right, we set our goal, and we work towards it, in this lifetime, it is possible that we can achieve it. I don't know whether that answers your question, Prabhu.
Thank you very much for the answer. The answer is very satisfactory. It only invokes some other questions in my mind. But dear devotees, if anyone has a question, please kindly indicate. Prabhu has a little time with us because the location of Prabhu's time, now it is 10 o'clock.
10 o'clock in India, yeah.
In India, so yes, Govinda, maybe after Govinda, I'll come with the second follow-up question. Govinda Prabhu, please kindly unmute to ask the question.
All right. Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Gurudev, all glories to Prabhupada, and all glories to you. Glories to you.
Glories to you.
Happy to see you very much.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's a very deep, wonderful presentation as usual. There's a follow-up question to my dear Seleka Prabhu's question.
Okay.
Perfect answer was given to his perfect question. But a follow-up question to that is that we see sometimes very, strong, wonderful devotees, give up their devotional life and go away. People with knowledge, when they are presenting Krishna consciousness, you can understand that they are very deep. But sometimes these same people will just give up the process, and go away. People go to temples, they go to mosque, they go to churches, they sow seed, they prayed in different ways for different desires, expecting God to have their desires fulfilled. So their worshiping of God is like they're worshiping Him, but with motives. So that's the same as like a conditional service, motivated devotional service and unmotivated devotional service. So the question is, what is the danger of one rendering devotional service with motives?
Thank you, Prabhu. I think you already given a clue of the answer. It's just as you said, sometimes we see devotees doing so well externally, and all of a sudden they give up the process. So it means that they were doing that with a motive. And even though they may seem to have learned the philosophy and the knowledge of Krishna consciousness in a very deep way, but they were doing it with a motive. And when the motive is not fulfilled, they give up the process. Because there can be a number of causes. It is Srila Bhakti Tita Maharaj has mentioned in one of his books, Aparada, that when we commit some offense towards other devotees, other Vaishnavas, we may also disqualify ourselves from, practicing Krishna consciousness. So, if we don't perform devotional service, or if we perform devotional service with some motive, and the motive is not fulfilled, then we would give up the process. And that is why it is not good for us to have any motive while we are performing devotional service. Of course, in the beginning we may have some motives, but as time goes on, these motives should fly away one by one. Just as even Krishna himself talks about it, the 4 types of people who approach him in the 7th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, right? That 4 classes of people: those who are after wealth, see, Chatur Vida Bhajanti Mam. 4 kinds of pious men begin to render devotional service unto me: the distress, the desire of wealth, the inquisitive, and he who is searching for knowledge. But then he said, out of these 4, the one who comes in knowledge is the best. So anybody can worship Krishna. Anybody can approach Krishna. Nobody is disqualified from worshiping Krishna. Nobody. But then, as we get to know more and more and more about Krishna, we should understand that Krishna wants complete surrender. Krishna wants complete love. That is the position of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And that is why at the end of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is saying, Sarva Dharma Parityaja. He said, abandon all varieties of religion, abandon all varieties of activities, and just surrender unto me. So the Acharyas explain that because Krishna is complete, Krishna is Purnam, he wants complete surrender. So therefore, in the beginning, we may not understand all this, and we may come from different backgrounds. But as we grow in our Krishna consciousness, we should come to the understanding that Krishna enjoys our devotion when it is uncontaminated by any other desire, when it is unalloyed. And so with this understanding, we should fix unalloyed devotional service in front of us, and we should work towards it. It might not happen immediately, but once it is our goal, we set it as our goal and we work towards it. With the mercy of Vaishnavas, with the mercy of Krishna, with the mercy of Guru, it is possible that we'll get there one day. So people may join us, people may even show very, serious advancement in preaching, serious advancement in knowledge, serious advancement in so many other fields, and then all of a sudden, they give it up because they had some motivation, and those motivations were not met. So, and that is why we should not render devotional service with any motivation, because if we have those motivations and they are not fulfilled, then we would lose our faith. So for the neophyte devotee, the new devotee, those things may be necessary, but as we grow in our hearing, we grow in our chanting, we grow in our meditation, we should begin to understand that Krishna loves pure bhakti. And therefore, if we want to come closer to Krishna, we have to program, we have to plan how to achieve that unalloyed devotion. And it's that unalloyed devotion that actually attracts Krishna's attention. That is, Bhaktyamam Abhijanate Yavanyas Chasmi Tatwataha. Krishna can only be known, Krishna can only be attracted, Krishna can only respond where there is pure bhakti. So therefore, we have to have this at the back of our minds, and we'll work towards it. And actually, that is what Mahaprabhu is presenting. Mahaprabhu's mission is to give us pure devotion. That is his mission. Vandeham Sri Chaitanya Devam Tam Karunanavam. Mahaprabhu has come into this world to demonstrate his mercy, Karunanavam, his complete mercy to the living entities, to the jivas, by establishing the process of Krishna Katha, Hari Katha, Krishna Nam, Sankirtan. All these activities are meant to bring in unalloyed bhakti. Krishna Katha, Hari Katha, Sankirtan, Shravanam, Kirtanam, all of these that Mahaprabhu initiated, is actually meant to give us unalloyed devotion. When he used to meet the devotees in SRIVAS Angam, in Srivas Thakur's house, he was just there to distribute unalloyed devotion. And when he took sannyas and went to Puri, even when he traveled everywhere he went, his only desire was to distribute unalloyed devotion. And so even this chanting of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra is actually meant to promote unalloyed devotion. Golokera Dhamma Harinam Sankirtanam. This Harinam Sankirtan, this chanting of the holy name, is the activity of the spiritual sky, which has been imported for the spiritual development of the people of Kali Yuga. And Mahaprabhu brought it purposely to initiate us into unalloyed devotional service. Does that answer your question, Govinda Prabhu?
Yes, Maharaj.
Thank you. Thank you for the question, Govinda Prabhu. Thank you very much for the beautiful
Hare Krishna.
answers. Hare Krishna. So, devotees, anyone still have any question? Okay, Arishakra Prabhu, please kindly unmute.
Yeah. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. My
obeisances.
All glories to Gurudev, glories to Prabhupada.
All glories to you, all glories to Prabhupada, and all
All
glories
glories
to
to you also. Hare Krishna.
thank you very much. Thank you. Yeah, it's a follow-up question with what Talika and Govinda have already asked.
Okay.
So, how can Prabhupada himself say that? Prabhupada himself says that we cannot be desireless.
We cannot be designed. Yes.
The impersonalists are, yes.
Yes.
Like
Yes.
the impersonalists are trying to do, that they want to be desired themselves, say we cannot be desired. In other words, if we are not desired, then it means that we should have a motive for whatever we are doing.
Yes.
Because the desire is what prompts this motivation.
Yes.
So if we cannot be desired, it means we cannot be without motive.
Yes.
So then if that is the case, so how can we render service without a motive?
Yes. What we mean by no motive is no material motive. We have material motives and we have spiritual motives. We have material desires and we have spiritual desires. So when we say no motive, means no material motives, but we may have spiritual motives. For instance, if somebody is cooking in the kitchen, there is a motive for cooking, no doubt about it. He's cooking either for Krishna's enjoyment or he's cooking for his own enjoyment. So if he's cooking for his own enjoyment, his motive is for his own pleasure. But if he's cooking for Krishna's enjoyment, then his motive is for Krishna's pleasure. And so it's the same cooking, but one is for Krishna's pleasure and the other is for the individual's pleasure. And so the person who is cooking for Krishna's pleasure, his cooking is considered unalloyed because he is not thinking of himself. He's just thinking, how can I make this better for Krishna? So it's unalloyed. But a person who is thinking, let me cook this nice meal for myself, his own cannot be described as unalloyed because he's thinking of the result, how he's going to enjoy the result. So we cannot do without desire, neither can we do without motivation. But desire can be purified, Srila Prabhupada's own words, motivation can be purified. And how do we purify? By making sure that whatever we are doing is for Krishna's pleasure, Guru's pleasure, Vaishnava's pleasure, and that endeavor is a pure endeavor. So we are living beings, we are conscious beings, and there is no question that we can do without desire or do without motivation. but the motivation could be spiritual or mundane. And that choice is left to the living entity. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. It does. But I still have some
Okay.
little bit more clarification.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
sometimes too, these motives may be not for your personal enjoyment.
Yeah.
But it becomes like a conflicting issue.
Yeah.
Let me give a very familiar example, which you yourself you are very aware of. Like whenever Patikete Mara used to come to Ghana,
Yeah.
you will let us decorate the altar like the forest of Vrindavan.
Yeah.
Good. And so some of us, we were in that mood also, always trying to decorate the altar in the forest of Vrindavan. Now another person comes, another guru comes, and he didn't like that type of what do we call it? Decoration. So now it became a conflicting issue. Some of us had that motive to please Guru Maharaj, and so it was a big question. And until Bhatiteta Maharaj himself came to clarify the issue, it was a big issue between us, among us devotees. Until the time he came and he said, hey, if I say decorate it like Vrindavan, when I'm here, you do that. When I'm not here and another person doesn't like it, don't do it.
Okay.
So if Guru Maharaj has not been there for that clarification, I'm sure even like till today, it would have been a bone of contention. There would have been a struggle among how to decorate the altar.
Yes.
So a situation like that, then how do we classify it? That is the devotee doing it for his personal motivation or doing it for the pleasure of Guru and Krishna?
Well, see, we should do things with guidance. That is very important. We have to do things with guidance, with superior guidance. That is why it is said, Guru, Sadhu, Guru, Shastra. These are the three checks and balances. Sadhu, Guru, and Shastra. Anything we are doing, we have to check with sadhus, which are the devotees. We have to check with Guru, and we have to check with Shastra. And when all are in line, then certainly we are sure what we are doing. But if one is off the line, then we need to check further. So if there is some conflict, misunderstanding regarding a particular situation, a particular service, then we have to consult with other senior Vaishnavas and, if possible, with the Guru and probably with the scriptures. So in this way, we are sure of these three authorities, senior Vaishnavas, Guru Maharaj's input, and the scriptural input, and definitely we will come to a conclusion if all these three authorities are consulted. That is what I will say. And of course, your statement also, that comes out very clearly, that when Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj came, he clarified the situation. So the person who may be objecting that, if he is also an authority or as highly exalted spiritual personality, well, we know that the different spiritual authorities have different bhavs, they have different moods, and therefore they may want it this way or want it that way. But if the fellow is not an authority and he is not in that spiritual position to decide, then it becomes a problem. That is where we may say he's doing it for his own personal interest. But if it is under the authority of a spiritual master under the authority of a superior Vaishnava, under the authority of probably maybe the manager or whatever, then we can still consult with other authorities to make sure that the right thing is done, so that it doesn't become a personal desire, personal thing. For instance, if we are decorating the altar, it is meant for the glory of Radha Damodara. It's for the pleasure of Krishna. But different people may want different flowers, different leaves, different things. So these things may happen. But if we consult with the three authorities, I think we can always find a solution.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Arishaka, for the question, and thank you very much to SRIVAS VANACARI for the beautiful answer. Suman Vara, please unmute.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, please ask them all.
Hare Krishna, Suman Varaha Prabhu. My obeisances as well. How are you doing?
Fine, fine. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna.
First, I have a contribution and then a question.
Please contribute. I'm happy to hear from you.
Yeah, so when you answered those questions posed by the Prabhus about why some people give up devotional service.
Yeah.
And then the principal reason you gave is personal motivation that were not fulfilled, that's not fulfilled. But then I think sometimes also there is expectation.
Yes,
now,
right.
This is motivation because sometimes we have so much expectation of our leaders or expectation of what the scripture says about devotional service and spiritual persons. And then we get disillusioned when we see opposite of that.
Yeah.
And there are many people who live because of that also.
That's true.
Yeah, because of the expectations of what a pure devotee is supposed to be, what a leader is supposed to be, according to the scripture, and then they don't see it or they see the opposite of it.
Yeah.
And then they get disillusioned, they get discouraged. That happens in many spiritual organizations, not only in ISKCON.
Okay, that's a fact. That's expectation. That's why it says do not expect. Otherwise you'll be disappointed. Thank you.
Okay, then my question now is the question Arishaka Prabhu asked. This is a very, very delicate one because he said that in the example he gave, he said that when Gurudev was asked about the conflict on how to dress the altar, and he said, do it when I'm here, do what I say when I'm here, and when I'm not there, and somebody wants something else, you can do that.
Yeah.
So does that mean that when the Guru is no longer physically present, so we just abandon all what he desires and then follow just follow whatever others want, and then we just forget whatever the Guru desires. Is that the case? So please, can you clarify this? Because
I don't think so.
The Guru will not be there physically all the time.
Yes.
So at what point do we know we have to keep his desire burning, or at what point do we just surrender his desires and do whatever anyone else wants? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your question. I would say that my understanding from this question is that Guru Maharaj gives an instruction and then he leaves and maybe another authority comes. That's the way I'm looking at it, that maybe his authority, he has given his what he wants and he leaves. Maybe another sannyasi, another guru, some other GBC or some other personality comes. That's the way I'm seeing the question. And that's why Guru Maharaj is saying, all right, if I'm here, do the way I want it. If I'm gone, do the way the other person wants it. So in other words, there are 2 authorities, 3 authorities, and they want to see things according to their vision. That is the way I see the question. But your question brings out another aspect. Does that mean that whatever the Guru has instructed us, taught us, trained us, should we give that up because somebody else does not want it? No. Guru Maharaj, he spent so much energy, he spent so much resources, he spent so much time to train us up in Krishna consciousness. And therefore, if we just drop everything he has given us and do something else, it means we don't really appreciate what he has given us. So we have to continue what he has given us. If there are some areas of conflict, then we have to sit down with whichever new authorities are there, and then we sort things out. But we have to insist that this is what Guru Maharaj has taught us, this is what he liked, and this is what we want to do to please him. And therefore, if there is some challenging situation, some opposition, we need to meet up with that opposition, meet up with that challenging situation, and try as much as possible to sort out things so that we can do what Guru Maharaj has shown us, and in order to please him. So I would not say we should just drop whatever he's taught us and just do something else. No, we have been trained, we have been guided and instructed, and we have to continue with whatever we've learned, unless, of course, there is such a situation that requires discussion, requires some analysis, and then coming up with some result, coming up with some decisions. But that is at the managerial level. Otherwise, we should just maintain whatever Guru Maharaj has given us, whatever his moods are, we maintain that. That is my opinion. I will tell you one episode, personal episode. You know, when Guru Maharaj was here with us, he used to give one day to ladies on the altar, particularly in Ghana. So after he left, some devotees approached me and said, we should not allow ladies to go to the altar. I said, why? The fellow said, you know, women are always contaminated, this, that, we should not allow them. There was some argument, but finally I said, okay, this is what Guru Maharaj wanted, and you are now bringing up this issue, we shouldn't allow ladies, and your reasons are this and this and this. I would prefer that we still allow ladies to go on the altar as Guru Maharaj wanted. But once you're objecting, let me give it a thought. So for a brief period, we kind of suspended the ladies going to the altar for a very brief period. But within that period, I had a dream. I dreamt I was in a vehicle with Guru Maharaj. He was sitting in the back seat and I was sitting next to the driver. And then we were traveling somewhere. And then we got to a fork road. And then we didn't know whether to go right or go left. So in the dream, Guru Maharaj said we should go left. The left road was not tarred. It was a rough road. And the right road was tarred. And so I said, Guru Maharaj, the right road is tarred. Why do we have to go on the rough road? And Guru Maharaj said, all right, if you want to go on the tarred road, you can go on the tarred road. So the driver moved on the third road, but in a short time, the road ended. There was no way. We couldn't go forward. And Guru Maharaj said, SRIVAS, you see, I said we should go on the right road, the left road, which is on third. You want your third road. Here you are no road. So we had to turn back, and then we went back to the junction, and we went on the left road, which was on third. Then I woke up. It was a dream. So I understood that Guru Maharaj is telling me that whatever he has instructed should be continued, no matter what the situation is. So the next morning, I just told the devotee that this issue, I'm not ready to go with your way. It is clear that Guru Maharaj wants us to go like this. And so I announced that the mothers should continue with their service on the altar. That's just an episode, an experience I got from this, question. So I want to share. Thank you.
Very good one. Very good one. Thank you for sharing that.
Hare Krishna.
So you had a dream and you got the lesson from the dream.
That's right. Straight
Then just in case you had not dreamt that way, you probably given to the
pressure
idea.
Yeah.
You probably given. Yeah, you probably given. So thank God, Guru gave you that revelation in the dream.
Yes.
So there are going to be cases like this where we may not have a dream because Guru might think that you should know what to do, that kind of a thing.
Yeah.
because we are adults. There's time when we're kids.
We are grown now.
Now we're grown now, and then Guru may not even bother himself to come and say that you just think that you should know what to do, and if you don't, well, you face the consequence yourself, because you are grown up now. So I think that also we have to think about that. It's not every time that we have to wait for time after we've received so many years of instructions and guidance. That at some point we should know what to do as adults. That's my okay. Thank you very much, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, SRIVAS Vanacharya, and thank you very much, Shama Prabhu, for the question and the comments. Thank you, the devotees. It's 2 hours, 3 minutes. We've been here, and it's 10:32 in India. Prabhu needs to rest in time to be able to be program. If there are any last comment or question, we'll take it. Otherwise, I will request that we bring the class to an end here. It's been over 2 hours.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Right.
So therefore, on this note, I'll request all of the devotees to please kindly unmute themselves. Let us all loudly chant a loud Hare Krishna mantra to appreciate His grace, SRIVAS Vanacharya, for giving us this beautiful nectar. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama,
Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. Namo Namaha.
His grace, SRIVAS Vanacharya, His confounder Acharya is Evangelist Prabhupada ki jai. Bhakti Tirtha Swami Maharaj ki jai. All glory to assemble devotees. Thank you very much. I will see you all again tomorrow.